This video is going to take a look at what is often called order of operations. Now, order of operations in mathematics is kind of a big deal because we want to make sure that whoever solves a given problem will end up with the same answer, and if we do it in the wrong order, we'll get different answers. The whole idea behind order of operations is if we consider the most basic of operations, addition and subtraction. And if we did repeated addition to get a more complex operation, repeated addition is multiplication and repeated subtraction is division. So multiplication and division are kind of more powerful than addition because of that repeated nature. Of course, if we repeat multiplication and division, we end up with various types of exponents. So exponents, by virtue of being repeated multiplication, are more powerful than multiplication, which is more powerful than addition. So we need to make sure we start with the most powerful of operations and work progressively down to the most basic. This is where we get the idea of the actual order of operations that we will use to solve a problem. Now, first we start with parentheses, or any type of grouping symbol, because parentheses say we're going to take this stuff out of the normal order and do this stuff first. So first we'll do the parentheses. Then we come in with those powerful exponents. Then we will do all the multiplication and division from left to right. And that's important because sometimes we divide before we multiply. Left to right, and then we'll finish with any addition and subtraction working from left to right. And people often think about the acronym PEMDAS. To remember, we do parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division left to right, and add and subtract left to right. If you do use the PEMDAS, I only ask that you write it vertically as I have, with the multiplication and division on the same level and addition and subtraction on the same level, to make sure we don't end up doing those operations out of order, because sometimes we divide before we multiply and sometimes we subtract before we add. All right, let's try some examples, keeping in mind that order of operations of parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction, PEMDAS, or some people use some type of phrase that uses those letters like please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. However you want to remember it. The important thing is that you remember the order of operations. So in this first example, 2 plus 5 times 3 minus 7. That 3 minus 7 being in parentheses needs to be done first. Everything else remains the same. 2 plus 5 times, in parentheses, 3 minus 7 is negative 4. Now, because the 5 is next to the parentheses, we assume that means multiplication. Don't accidentally think that's subtraction. That actually means 5 times 4. Since there's no exponents, multiplication is going to be our next operation, keeping everything else the same. 2 plus 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And now, finally, at the end, we get to the addition and subtraction. 2 plus negative 20 is negative 18 for our final solution. Taking a look at this second example, there's several parentheses, but you notice there's no operations inside those parentheses. Those parentheses just hold the numbers and tell us that things next to each other are multiplied. So no parentheses. We'll jump down to exponents. Negative 2 squared. That means negative 2 times negative 2, which is a positive 4, minus 4 times 3 times negative 2. Now that the exponents are done, we will multiply and divide from left to right. So from left to right, we've got 4. And negative 4 times 3 is negative 12 times a negative 2. And negative 12 times negative 2, continuing that multiplication from left to right, is a positive 24. Still have that 4 in front. And finally, the addition at the end, 4 plus 24 gives us 28 for our solution. Let's try a few more examples. Again, order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, add and subtract. This first example, 20 divided by 4 times negative 5, is one of the most missed problems that I see because people want to multiply 4 times negative 5 first. But remember, multiplication and division must be done left to right, which means first we must do 20 divided by 4, which is 5 times negative 5. And now we can do the multiplication, which comes last. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25 for our final solution. This next one gets quite interesting. Negative 4 plus 5 times, and these are grouping symbols here. We've got these parentheses, so we've got to do parentheses first. 2 cubed divided by 4 minus negative 3 times 4. When we're inside a grouping symbol, the order of operations starts over again. So first we will do the exponents before we do any multiplication and division. Doing one step at a time to make sure we don't get in trouble, we've got negative 4 plus 5 times 2 cubed is 8 divided by 4 minus negative 3 times 4, and close the parentheses. Still inside that parentheses, the exponents are done. Now we multiply and divide left to right, which means first we're going to do 8 divided by 4. This gives us negative 4 plus 5 times 8 divided by 4 is 2 minus negative 3 times 4. Continuing with our order of operations inside that parentheses, multiplication coming next, left to right. We've got negative 4 plus 5 times 2 minus negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. And close the parentheses. Still working inside that parentheses. 2 minus negative 12, well, we add the opposite, so that becomes 2 plus positive 12. So we have negative 4 plus 5 times, keep that multiplication here, 2 plus 12 is 14. And now we're finally done with that parentheses. Next, we can move to our multiplication. 5 times 14 is 70, so we have negative 4 plus 70. And that gives us a positive 66 for our final solution. Keeping that order of operations in mind, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract. Let's do one really good problem. I'm going to change colors here. I don't like using red. Let's try using blue. All right. This problem's a fraction. We've got stuff going on in the numerator, stuff going on in the denominator. With fractions, there's actually this invisible set of parentheses around the top and the bottom. You have to simplify the entire top and the entire bottom before you reduce the fraction. So I'm going to treat them individually, and I'm just going to look at the top first, just to keep it clean. Negative 5 minus 3 cubed divided by 9. And we know we have to do the exponent first. Parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, add and subtract. So we have negative 5 minus 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, or 27. Divided by 9. After exponents comes division. So we have negative 5 minus 27 divided by 9 is 3. Finally, add and subtract. We'll add the opposite. Negative 5 and negative 3 is negative 8. And that's the top, or the numerator, of my fraction. Now on the bottom, we've got 2 minus 4 times 3 plus negative 5. And we have to do those parentheses first. So we have 2 minus 4 times 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. And I'm going to be careful here. That's negative 4 times the parentheses. It should still be negative 4 times what's in the parentheses. Don't change that to subtraction. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. So we have 2 plus 8, which is 10. So our fraction, the top simplified to negative 8, the bottom or the denominator simplified to 10. And we can reduce that fraction. Dividing by 2 gives us negative 4/5 for our final solution. So that's a bunch of examples that show the order of operations. Take a look at the homework assignment to try a few of them and ask your instructor if you have any questions. Good luck.